What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of the Third Intermission podcast. This is the post free agency show. So, technically speaking, you might be hearing some stuff from a couple days prior, but I can assure you of a couple things here. Uh, we're going to try and make sure we keep you all updated on everything. So, of course, follow us on the socials at Toronto Third on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. And you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast from. And that includes Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, and our friends over at Podbean. You got myself and, of course, the right hand of the king, aka the Fedora Man, Mr. Avery McDougall, coming to you live, loud, and in color from Edmonton, Alberta. Avery, what's up?
Yo, I promise y'all this show will be shorter than the NHL's first round of the draft.
It'll be much shorter than that, trust me.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we got a lot to talk about right now. First things first, we do have a lot of trades that we did want to dissect, considering that um, trade deadline day, July the 1st, aka Canada Day, or let me rephrase that actually, free agency day on Canada Day. And of course, all these big names basically signing elsewhere. You got a couple sign and trades, and I think one of the biggest ones is coming out of Toronto. And I feel like you know what, like that really does need to be talked about. Of course, we do have a few podcast mates who have some quote unquote opinions about the whole thing, but we're going to dissect that as best as we can and as quickly as we can. We're also going to talk about the draft and how decentralized it was. And dude, it was long. That first round draft was longer than a Kardashian wedding, or even sorry, a Kardashian marriage. Like Jesus, it was long. Um, we're also going to look on, say, who hit a home run at the draft and who struck out at the draft. And then finally, we're going to take a look into the CBA and play a little Where's Waldo in the situation that's like what was different. Where can we find this? Where can we find that? What's gone? What's here? What's the biggest piece of foolishness? So much and more. But first things first, let's go to the monstrosity of the day, especially when it comes to Leafs Nation. Uh, Mitch Marner has decided to take a gamble on Lady Luck and get himself traded to the Golden Knights. Avery, what I gotta get your instant analysis on this because first things first, Homeboy signs an 8-year, $12 million or 8-year, $96 million contract and then gets himself traded to the Vegas Golden Knights, thus, I guess, thus ending the marriage between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Mitch Marner camp. I gotta be honest, like I'm sad that he's leaving, but dear God, it's finally over. And I gotta ask you, like, how is the hockey world taking this right now?
You know what? Finally, we all knew it was over. We all knew the marriage of Martin Lewis was coming to an end, and we now know where he's gone. He's going to Vegas, and I think it's just finally we can stop talking about the Mitch Marner where he's gonna go. We stop talking about the fallout with Maple Leafs and the fans, and everybody gets a clean start. Everybody gets a clean break for a fresh start, and it's a one-for-one deal. Which Marner goes to Vegas, Nicholas Roy goes to Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna go to a team which the Vegas Golden Knights are looking to on the fly rebuild. We saw the news that Alex Pietrangelo is done for next year due to his hip injuries. He's done for next year and probably
Mm-hmm.
done for good. He probably not going to play again ever. But I look at them Leafs now. You can look forward now and say, okay, who else can we bring in now? And you can now focus on building this team around Marner. I'm sorry, around Nylander and around Matthews more. That situation is done. There's no more need to discuss it anymore because that was a big thing. Was we saw in the playoffs, we saw how once again the Mitch Marner who was needed wasn't there in the postseason, and now that's an issue for the goal line to deal with, no longer a Leafs issue. So now you can move on, take your next step forward as a franchise without Mitch Marner, which for Leafs is a good thing.
Looking at this whole thing, like you got to look at it from a Toronto perspective now. Mitch Marner has basically made himself public enemy number one, and we haven't seen any any signs of vitriol this bad since Vince Carter left back in 2004. Marner has basically villainized himself out of Toronto. And I genuinely feel like, you know what? Like, he's going to get the same treatment Carter got back in 2004, if not worse. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, he's gonna get booed. Like he is going to take when it comes like that first game when Vegas is back in Toronto. He's gonna get booed. It's gonna be that heat. But the
Mm-hmm.
one thing I was talking to somebody else about this is that at least with Vince Carter, he's back with Vince Carter, and as the years went on, fans softened to Vince Carter. The Carter effect came out, and people talked about, wouldn't it be cool to see Vince play last year in Toronto? It didn't happen
Mm-hmm.
because remember, at the same time, Vince was a major cog in pushing basketball in Canada. Vince Vince set the culture in many ways when it came to Canadian basketball, Toronto basketball.
Mm-hmm.
What did Rich Marner really set? Like, I mean, yes, hometown boy, he was supposed to be the hometown kid here forever and ever. But what did Mitch Marner really set in terms of culture? Like, what did Mitch Marner innovate? What did Mitch Marner really do beyond? Like, Mitch Marner didn't really set a cultural standard. I mean, again, he had good years here, but
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't anything about Mitch Marner that made you think, wow, this guy forever and ever is indispensable in our team's history. I mean, yes, he'll be a part of it, but what about Mitch Marner made you think he's going to be endeared for the next 70, 80 years, really?
Exactly. Because, like, I mean, again, looking at his numbers, like, he was like top five all time in scoring. Um, he's hit the century mark in points, say, what, once or twice within the last few years. He was definitively an Art Ross Trophy candidate, but he could not get himself there. And you know what? Like, thanks to not only his regular season, like, say, his regular season prowess, but also his playoff struggles, that really didn't hit home for Leaf fans. And, whether it was blunders against Montreal or Tampa Bay or even against Florida or even against Boston for that matter, like, he did not step up when we needed him to. And unfortunately, it paid off in dividends for most of these aforementioned teams.
Yeah,
Not once did it pay off for the Leafs.
I know. Don't get me wrong. In due time, down the road, way down the road, people will, people will say, oh, he had some great years. We had, again, don't be wrong. 90-point guy had 100-point season as well too. In due time, people, when his career is over, in 15ish years, he'll come back. He'll do autograph sessions. He'll do the Leafs alumni thing, but he won't be revered in the same way Vince is because again the culture, like again, what did he really do to make you say, "Wow, this guy is a culture bearer, an innovator"?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to Vince Carter, we talk about guys who left. Compared to guys who are leaving, like Vince Carter in other Toronto sports, it isn't there for Marner. Like I said, he'll be honored when his career is over. He'll get his nice little return, but people aren't going to, at least from my perspective, aren't going to hold him in that same standard as again, the Vince. Even I mean, when their careers are done, I see the guys who are going to be in terms of the icons of a certain era. To me, it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
more. It'll be more so guys like Austin Matthews, William Nylander, and Nazem Kadri than say Mitch Marner.
Yeah. That's completely understandable. Um, we do wish him the best of luck in Vegas, but when we see you, it's going to be on site. So, like, get your tears out of the way. You're about to be checked into the boards, and you're about to be made an example of when you come back to the Big Bank Arena. That's all I'm going to say. So, anyways, we have some other stuff that we want to actually tie into real quick. Of course, some other big signings as well. Florida retaining most of their core with Aaron Ekblad, Sam Bennett, and the other big name that has been circulating not only for Toronto but for Boston as well. Brad Marchand actually signing a 6-year deal as a 37-year-old. That's absolutely insane. So we're going to try and break things down, try and break down some of the numbers really, really quickly here. Of course, Marchand re-signing with the Panthers at 6 years with an average annual value of 5.25. Evan Bouchard retaining a contract with the Oilers for 4 years with an AAV of 10.5. Ivan Provorov signing with the Blue Jackets for 7 years with an 8.5 AAV. Aaron Ekblad, as we mentioned earlier, 8 years, 6.1 AAV, going for a total of 48.8 mil over the next 8 years. Some other big signings too. Patrick Kane re-signing with the Red Wings. Vladimir Tarasenko, excuse me. Or actually, I may have messed that name up. I apologize, folks. Tarasenko, of course, being traded from the Red Wings to the Minnesota Wild. And yes, it is Vladimir Tarasenko. Nick Hague, of course, who was an original trade prospect for the Leafs in the sign and trade earlier today with Mitch Marner. He's going to Nashville in exchange for Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lauzon as well. Going back in reverse. Few other transactions that went down as well. The Leafs acquiring Matthias Michelli from the Utah Mammoth for a 2027 conditional third, and Caden Primo going from Montreal to Carolina for a 2026 seventh rounder. Obviously, there's going to be more big signings, and we are going to drop some of that breaking news come Tuesday. And we will have everything posted for you, say, Tuesday night as we do a post-game wrap-up. We will definitely look into spaces for that. So be on the lookout for that, folks. Avery, any surprises for you so far?
I think the surprise for me is Florida bringing back Marner, Ekblad, and Bennett. I was certain that one of those guys. Yeah, no, Marchand, Bennett. Sorry. I figured one of those guys would have been gone out of Marchand, Bennett, Ekblad. I figured one of those three. Because my thing was, how are you going to keep all those guys under the cap? So it appears possibly the odd name out I've heard is Carter Hagee. He might be the guy on his way out to make that money work. But yeah, the deal for Brad Marchand is interesting because that goes until he's 43. And granted, in hockey, we've seen guys play past 40, no problem. But it's a matter of, can you stay healthy? Can you handle that wear and tear for that long before it becomes albatross of a contract? So we got to wait and see when it comes to that with Brad Marchand. And another guy who you mentioned right there, Matthias Michelli, someone who goes from Utah to Toronto, David. He's someone who I've watched before when he was playing back when the Mammoths were in Arizona. And he was a part of that core in Arizona with guys like Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley. I thought to myself, this is going to be a team to be fun to watch for a while. I think he's going to be a part of that Utah team that would make the playoffs eventually. He's out. He's going up north. And that is a solid forward that has done the work, solid left winger who will give you a nice 40 to 50 goal, 40 50 point campaign. Eventually, I think he'll be a guy who can give you a nice 20 goals a season. So that's the kind of guy who I think will fit in nicely to Toronto's top 9 next year.
The only question is, say, can he repeat his performance from 2 years ago under a very bright light like Toronto?
I mean, it'll be tough. That's going to be the big thing for Brad Sullivan, to give him that space, give him those opportunities to try and succeed. I do think he will. And at 24 years old, his game is still growing. His game is still developing. But I want to see what he can do, because that's a guy in which, if you can get him going, you can get his game fully fine-tuned in Toronto, he could be a Leaf for the next decade.
Could definitely see that happening. Of course, there are some other prospects that the Leafs we do want to tie into really quickly here. Like, of course, for example, Harry Nancy, Lucas Koblar. I do believe I may have messed that name up, so correct me if I'm wrong. Jordan Hlocker from the Kitchener Rangers, and so many other draft picks that the Leafs have drafted over the past weekend. I thought I lost you for a minute. Sorry there. As we tie into the NHL draft, first things first, though, we do have to discuss the NHL first round, man. What the hell was that? Avery, you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thought I lost you for a minute. Um, I gotta be honest, man. That whole decentralized draft, it just took too long. Like, I think one of the biggest things that ESPN really just gets out of the way really quickly is the fact that, like, say, when it comes to the NBA draft, it's like, hey, you get your draft picks, you do your interview, you get out of there. And of course, like, I think it's one of those things where it's like we have to talk about the Raptors draft pick for a hot second, and then we also have to talk about Ace Bailey as well. But there was a lot of negative comparisons between, like, say, a Raptors, or sorry, the NBA draft and the NHL draft, where it was like, oh, all these kids were like super happy and blah 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 blah, but there was no emotional aspect to it. Whereas, like, you had kids in the NBA like literally crying and coming out with gold chains and all that stuff, and it's just like, dude, just say you're a racist and move on. But like, essentially, like, it's night and day. It's night and day with the NBA and the NHL. Obviously, it's two different sports, but it was just absolutely insane to, like, literally sit there for 4 hours, and like the top 5 picks took an hour to get done. I if I'm a hockey fan and, like, I'm trying to see some of these kids finally get their moment, like, dude, do not make it longer than like 10 minutes at most. Like, that's insane. Like, how is it that the NBA can have 5 minutes, like 5 minutes between picks in that situation, but like the NHL can take like a swift 30 minutes to do the first round pick and then just do some foolishness and then go to the second pick right after and take another half hour, essentially. Like, again, like, that really turns me off from the NHL draft as a whole.
So here's where the NHL stepped on 1,000 rakes compared to the NFL and the NBA draft when it comes to decentralization. It is possible to do it. The NBA has done it for decades, so is the NFL. The problem is with the NHL was they added in a whole bunch of other crap you did not need. You did not need every player going up to a back room to talk to the GMs on Wi-Fi in a very awkward manner, which sometimes didn't work, sometimes did work. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
need that. You didn't. You need the big thing for me is that the NBA, and NFL, they know we have to keep it moving, keep it going, keep it moving. NHL was very stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, and then all the interviews and segments like no, no. You understand? Like this is all, yeah, I mean, yes, this is business, this is all entertainment. You cannot drag on that long. You have to, if you want to if you want to make a system a draft change, then it should be better than what you have. This was not better. This was worse. This was far, far, far worse. I understand that GMs want to stay at home. They don't want to be at, you don't want to, they don't want to travel around again. You know what? Fine. Then don't do interviews. Then we don't need to hear from every single team. We don't. That slows things
Exactly.
down way too much. Great example. The Boston Bruins, when they took James Higgins out of Boston College, James Higgins goes to that little back room and talk to Bruins management. They're introducing him. Higgins is saying, he's happy to be a Bruin, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And Don Sweeney and Cam Neely are frozen. Why? Their feed froze on them due to connection issues. I'm sorry. Make sure everybody's Wi-Fi is good on that end for every single team beforehand. There can be no errors or issues like that on live television. It's bad programming and it's embarrassing. And
It's
you made
insane.
Stormy Bonatani on the fly have to pivot when it comes to finding ways to again fill in that gap while you're trying to get the connection back up again. That was a
Mm-hmm.
horrible look for content. That was embarrassing. Keep it moving, keep it going. You don't need to have everyone talk. That added an extra 5 minutes for every single player taken. Also, too, was another point where if a team trades up to get someone else's spot, I'm sorry, the clock should not reset for that team. You want to trade? You want to trade up? You go to the podium immediately with your selection. There's no more. Oh, we're resetting the clock for you. No, 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 no. You're trading up. Go to the podium right there and make your pick.
Exactly.
You don't get more time.
It's mind-boggling that like say we have to discuss this because like even hockey insiders were absolutely going wild about this, and it's like why do we need to have a 4 hour first round, especially in the NHL? Like I remember when the NHL draft was like what two the first round was like what maybe an hour 2 hours long at most. At least things got moving. Yeah, there's like so many different parts and like each segment or each draft segment was like 10 minutes at most. Ideally speaking, like you know what, everything was streamlined. And there were also GMs, coaches, player personnel, um, and just executive teams, literally with like a whole whackload of tables and phones there. At least at least everybody was there, and it was just one, I guess, one big happy family, so to speak.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's a near certainty that next year's draft will go back to the old format of like it used to be, which is good because you cannot have a repeat of this again next year. I'm sorry. You can't have this
Mm-mm.
many issues go. And it's too bad because don't get me wrong, there were some segments which were cool, which were actually funny. Like I thought it was I did like when Roger McQueen went to Anaheim. I thought it was kind of funny how they immediately took him to Disneyland and he was with Lightning McQueen. Like I did like the fact that I did like the fact they played into that kind of goofy things. I did like it's kind of funny, but
Mm-hmm.
it was too far and way too infrequent. Which had a good segment like that, which actually made me think, okay, it's kind of fun and cool. Again, like go back to how it used to be. Let everybody be there. Just avoid this again. And I really do not care about all the GMs who want to stay at home. I don't care because you're in. Too bad. It's a part of your job. Go down there, get your work done in person, suck it up. I mean, again, it's business. This was a bad operation for this year. And the
From
NFL,
start to finish.
yeah, again, the NFL can do it because the NFL and NBA know how to get in and out within a hour and a half, 2 hour window. The NHL couldn't
Exactly.
do that. If you cannot be signing off from round one after 2 hours, you failed.
It was outright insane. I mean, the special guests and everything were great, but like it was just a lot. And to have like what Charlie Conway and Connie Monroe from the Mighty Ducks series actually announced the Anaheim pick. Happy Gilmore, aka Adam Sandler, doing the um doing the Boston pick.
Mhm.
That was cool in itself. Having Bailey doing this from the WWE doing San Jose's first pick. Uh, Mind you, um, folks, we'll be right back. This is the Third Intermission Podcast. All right, folks, we're back. You're listening to the Third Intermission Podcast. We're going to jump ahead really quickly to the draft picks for the NHL draft in the first round. Of course, one of the biggest names that popped out for the first round was, of course, Matthew Schaefer going to the New York Islanders and what is believed to be one of the craziest bounces in the NHL draft lottery. Um, Islanders get a really great pick, and also you get a really great moment with Schaefer as his mom had passed away due to breast cancer, and it was just a very poignant moment. As like say, it was one of those feel good moments where like say you know, you get to honor his mom and like the jersey like literally had like the breast cancer ribbon on the breast cancer ribbon patch right on the shoulder. And it's just like, it was a very poignant moment. Avery, I want to get your thoughts on that really quickly.
Yeah, no, that was super cool to see. And he's someone who has been deserving of being number one pick. Great year in Erie, and again, really, really great kid. That was a very emotional moment for him in terms of what he went through, and I thought that was handled with class by Islanders. I thought Matthew Darch and Islanders handled out with a lot of class.
Mm-hmm.
Then they show, hey, they value him, they value his journey. So I liked what they did for that, and I wish him the best in Long Island.
Yeah, so do I. And you know what? Like that's very significant, not only for him but also for his family and also for the Islanders organization. So that was very classy on their part. Um, there was also a lot of representation as well among Black and Asian and Indigenous players throughout the draft. Of course, one of the highest draft picks out there was Bill Zonin, um, drafted to Pittsburgh, I believe. Correct?
Yes, Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Okay, like I believe he was like the highest drafted Black player
No,
for the.
Keyshawn Aitchison went. It was Keyshawn Aitchison was highest drafted in New York, the Islanders.
Oh wow. Wait, Islanders had 2 picks in the first round. 2 picks in the top 10.
Yeah, top 20. Aitchison
Top
went
20.
17 to the Islanders.
Oh wow. That's a really great story as well. Malcolm Spence also getting drafted. Riker Lee, Aiden Park. The Leafs also drafting a brother. Leafs drafting a brother as well, and Harry Nancy from Owen Sound. I feel like that was a very significant draft pick for the Leafs. Of course, here I am losing my mind saying, like, the team, we got a brother on the team.
That was very fun, and of course, Jack and Carter Bear, Indigenous players who went in the top 15 as well. And again, you mentioned Harry Nancy. I actually wrote about Harry Nancy a couple of years ago for Hockey News because he scored 6 goals in the game. So I wrote about Harry Nancy a few years ago. So I was like, oh dang, I wrote about that brother for THN when he scored 6 goals in the game. So I thought that was really cool to see him get taken by the Maple Leafs.
We also have a few Indigenous players that we wanted to give some flowers to. Jack Nesbitt, of course, getting drafted by the Flyers as the 12th round pick, coming out of the and forgive me for butchering this, the weak Wemkung First Nation. Played for Windsor. He was playing for Windsor. Let me rephrase that. He comes out of Windsor, 6'4", 185, had 25 goals and 64 points in 65 games. This is going to be a great pickup for Philly. Carter Bear going next, drafted by the Red Wings. Of course, he is a member of the Peguis First Nation of Manitoba, coming out of the AHL, drafted from Everett. Keyshawn Aitchison, as Avery mentioned earlier, defenseman from the Islanders, drafted number 17, highest black player drafted this year, coming out of Barrie. Bill Zonin, of course, one of our also other significant draft picks as well, drafted 22nd from the Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League. Riker Lee from Madison of the United States Hockey League, of course, led all rookies in goals with 31 goals, including 10 power play goals, and had 66 points. And was second in assists last season. Of course, hailing from Wilmette, Illinois. This kid came out of Taiwan. This kid came out of Taiwan, and you know what? Honestly, let me rephrase that. This kid is of Taiwanese descent, as his father emigrated from the United States from Taiwan and committed to Michigan State for next year. Very great story coming out of there as well. Avery, I know you definitely want to say a few things as well really quickly, so you're more than welcome to go right ahead.
You mentioned other players of color. You mentioned Aiden Park, who was drafted, Richard Park's nephew. And the funny story, he's team by the Oilers, 223rd overall. And I think the funny story went around was that Aiden Park didn't think he was going to be drafted, figuring, you know what, let me see what's going to happen. Comes to day 2 in just a hoodie and shorts, figuring, I'm not going to be taken. Gets taken by Edmonton and walks down to the appointment in his hoodie and shorts. That's kind of a funny thing where, he didn't think he was going to get drafted. He's ready to leave, gets taken, the second last pick of the draft. So that's kind of a cool story. And again, comes from great hockey pedigree. Richard Park, long-time NHLer, as his uncle. And I look at just another name that went in his draft, Simon Wang, born in China, wants to help, highest drafted player of Asian descent in his draft here, went 33rd to San Jose. And Simon Wang talked about, I mentioned, wants to grow hockey in China, wants to give back to Chinese hockey on the mainland. And I think to myself, the fact that a kid like that already knows he wants to get back to hockey in China, wants to grow the game, that's a great thing. And a player taken that highest drafted player born in China ever, that is a great thing to see, in which these kids are saying, hey, I'm going to give back because I know it's it's my duty to give back and make hockey grow in different parts of the world. I think that's a great mentality to have.
Mhm.
And that's how we're going to get more people interested in the game, involved in the game, because we see it how. The idea of, if I see it, I can believe it, I can achieve it. Like, look at Bill Zonin. He talked about how he first watched hockey, he saw PK Subban, he said, "Can I play hockey?" Because he saw PK. And when people tell me, we want to say that nonsense about, oh, why does color matter? Why does race matter? Oh, the best players. Like, BS. Shut your mouth for a second.
It's like
Seeing
measure beauty.
someone, seeing someone who looks like you impact, especially in hockey, that matters. That is important. Seeing somebody looks like you on the ice doing their thing. Seeing someone in management who looks like you. Seeing someone in media, a reporter, a host, an official, whatever it is, in and around hockey, and you see that, it matters. So don't give me that crap about, oh, well, I'm colorblind. Oh, I'm this and that. You're ignorant. You're an idiot.
No, I fully agree with that. And honestly, like the game of hockey did, of course, pop up in China. Or well, it has been in China for a while, but it wasn't as popular until the Beijing Olympics back in 2022, which is absolutely
Yep.
significant in its own right. So, you know,
It was growing. They had two C-Dub teams in China. So
yeah,
yeah.
of course. And like there are a couple Chinese teams in the Continental Hockey League out in Russia. So of course, like we would love to see the game just explode and be as just as eccentric as the NHL is, if not say 10 times better than the NHL. And hopefully, it will grow to say have more Chinese players in the game or more players of Asian descent, to tell you the truth. And you know what? Like I'm all for it. You know, I don't mind seeing African players into hockey because, like, you know what, we have two African teams at the Worlds now, right? They're in Division 3 as it stands. We could potentially have a team West Indies or a team Jamaica, within say eventually within the top flight within the next 10 years. So of course, representation really really matters in this scenario. Of course, Carter Amico, who played for the United States national development team. He got drafted by the Flyers. Malcolm Spence, Malcolm Spence from Erie. He got drafted as well by the New York Rangers in the second round, drafted 43rd overall. The Leafs drafting their first Asian player in a very long time, in William Bell. He his mom's Chinese, his dad's American, and he actually lived in China. Like I believe that's the first player of Chinese descent in Leafs history. I could be genuinely wrong in that situation, but this is something completely crazy. You so many other names as well that could be bounced around in this situation. Shamar Moses got drafted to the Florida Panthers from North Bay. Talks about some of our most significant friends, and Anthony Stewart, Kevin Weeks, Joel Ward, Wayne Simmons, of course, the general of Scarborough himself, and former Stanley Cup champion Devontae Smith-Pelly. That's a very significant. Those are very significant names, especially within Black hockey. And this kid's from Scarborough. You know, why he's being drafted from Florida, or drafted to Florida, I'm never gonna understand. But you know what? Hey, it is what it is at this point. If he fits a need, he fits a need. But I hope he comes home. I genuinely hope he comes home. So many big names. So many big names of, like, say, minority descent going into the draft this year, and I feel like this is a very high number. And honestly, it's going to continue to grow within the next few years. So I'm very hopeful to see that just significantly and exponentially grow in a positive manner. And for those of you who feel that, like, oh, we shouldn't be talking about color or what have you, it's like, listen, you get a box of crayons. You go to a store, you buy a box of crayons. You're going to see a whole bunch of different colors. You're going to see colors that you don't like. You're going to see colors that you're going to want to use. You're going to have to deal with it at one point or another. Moving on. Last but not least, we're going to talk about the new CBA deal of the NHL and the NHLPA, signing a 4-year deal to extend the collective bargaining agreement and it will extend into, it will actually start as of the 2026-2027 season. Avery, I'm going to let you take this one really quickly here.
Mhm. So we won't go too long in this, but there's a few major points that are going to be involved in the new CBA. One of them being deferred salary. That is going to be gone as of the 26-27 season. Of course, we know infamously Frank Bertrand's contract with the Anaheim Ducks had deferred money, which a lot of teams did not like. They didn't like the fact that they deferred money deal. That is going to be done. There's going to be full-time e-bugs, emergency backup goaltenders. So no more
Mm-hmm.
random Zamboni drivers filling in as goalies. There's gonna be it'll be a full-time e-bug that also travel with teams. That's gonna be a thing
Mm-hmm.
now going forward, as of the year after next year. No more dress code. So there's no more dress code in the league now. So you don't have to wear a suit and tie on certain teams. You can dress how you want to. So I wonder how that's gonna look because there are some players who are some guys are fashionable. A lot of guys are not. So you're probably gonna see a lot more casual outfits now are coming to the rink as of 2026, September 2026. And another big one, the season's going into 84 games as of 26-27. So 84 game regular season in a couple of seasons, which we had before. In the mid 90s, we had 2 years of 84 games length, but that was
Mm-hmm.
back. That was back when the league was trying to experiment with neutral site games to test out new markets. So going back to 84 games will be coming up, and additionally, the preseason will be shortened. So the preseason in it will be as a 26-27, no more than 4 games, and additionally, players who have played 100 or more games can only play a maximum amount of 2 preseason games. So a few of those major points there in the new CBA.
What do you agree with? What do you not agree with in this situation?
I agree very much so when it comes to the regular season length being in terms of now I'm not a big fan of the season being extended again, but I do like the fact we're going to have a shorter preseason and having veterans play less games because again, look, we by game 4, you know what your team is going to be looking like by a game 4 of preseason. You don't need 8 preseason games to determine that. It drags
Mm-hmm.
on and on and on and on and on. We don't need that. So I like the fact they're going to limit that and bring that down to an extent. I do like the idea of I don't mind, I'm a fashionable guy, but I don't mind the no more dress code. But I just know that some guys are gonna use it just be like, all right, shorts and sweatpants drink every single day. And I do want to see the guys who are fashionable. What are they gonna wear? Like what is a Kendrick Miller gonna rock? Like what is a Quentin Byfield gonna rock? Because we know those are two brothers who are fashionable. Those two guys know how to dress well. But what are they gonna
Mm-hmm.
do? What are they gonna do with the parameters loosened to an extent? Like what is their style gonna be like when maybe it isn't a suit every single day to the rink? And when it comes to e-bugs, now I thought it was only a matter of time. I thought with e-bugs they were gonna make it a rule in which they're gonna have a full-time bug because I know it's quirky that NHL had, you could have a random guy in net, but
Mm-hmm.
I always assumed one day the league would formalize and say, you know what, no, we can't have a random guy who's an accountant by day filling in for a game. I saw it coming where the NHL was gonna put their foot down eventually and say no. Yeah, it was fun for a headline, but we can't have this random guy being in net. So I wasn't shocked to see them formally say no. An e-bug has to be a full-time employee, and e-bug is probably going to be most likely uh um it's probably going to be like a third string college guy or a minor pro guy who will be there all the time. So
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing that really is going to stick a hole or really going to burn a hole in some players' craw is when it comes to free agency in a couple years. Um, I don't know
mhm.
if you mentioned this earlier, but player contracts now are going to be shortened from 8 years to 7 years. With
Yes.
that decrease, it's like now players can't sign for more than 6 years if you're signing for a new team, or if you're going to retain your rights with your original team, you can only stay there for 7 years. I feel like, you know what, like under the current CBA, of course, 8 years is a very long time, but of course the salary cap isn't that high, and the most that say any team can, I guess, the most that any team can sign is like say under a salary cap of 104 million. give or take about 4 million, right? So I think that's something significant in its own right. But of course, if the salary cap does jump to say like 1993, 1994 NBA numbers, where players were earning the most players were earning were like say 10 million, 12 million, 15 million at most. Like I feel like that could be something down the line. But I do see a hard cap working in this league. Could we see it in the NBA? You never know, because like I do not want to be seeing players making like $500,000 and then seeing the Raptors getting sold to a private equity firm.
A hard cap in the NBA? Bro,
Yeah,
that's never gonna happen. I mean, the amount of leeway, the amount like they like that soft. I mean, the players like the soft cap to an extent, but
yeah,
I don't. You've gone too far into. Don't get me wrong. The NBA's soft cap. Trying to explain it to someone who doesn't understand financial, it's not. It's not easy. I wish it was cleaner, but
yeah.
you are so deep into players getting like players are making 50 to 40 million, like the amount of money that they make right now. There's no way they're gonna go back to a hard cap system. There's too many advantages for a player in certain ways, or there's too
No,
many.
I trust me, I get it. Here's the messed up part about the whole situation. Like you've got teams that you've got players that are earning like say almost 50, almost 60 a year. Because the highest contract right now is of course Steph Curry, excuse me, and he's earning 59.6 million this year, right? And that's based off of his current contract extension. The highest Raptor right now is Scotty Barnes at 38.6. Um, that's just crazy enough in itself. And like Toronto salary cap issues are like literally just about to spike in this situation. Who knows if like the Raptors will actually have enough money to draft players, but that's more MLSE's issue in that situation. Um, but like to try and see those type of inflated contracts in the NHL, like I don't see that happening unless like say the NHL could make money again.
I mean, the cap is going up in a couple of years. That's why you're seeing players right now not wanting the big money deals right now, because if I can get paid in a couple of years, I'm not gonna hamstring myself to a deal right now with the cap going up in a couple of years as well in hockey, Dave. So, and I get
Well, of
that.
course.
The cap is set to go up by quite a lot very soon here. So if you're a top tier talent, I don't want that. I don't want that 7 or 8 year deal right now. I want to get the bag when that cap goes up by a bit more.
Here's the other question that really needs to be addressed here. Are we going to finally see a player make over 11, 12 million and finally see them win a Stanley Cup based off of the new cap projections? Because as of right now, we're seeing players who are taking massive haircuts on player contracts. For example, John Tavares, who happily re-signed with the Leafs for 17.52 mil for the next 4 years. And of course, our boy Matthew Nyes, who re-signed for 6 years at $7.75 million, giving you a total of 48.5 million over 48.5 million. Would you be seeing players that who would take like say a minor haircut, like say reduce their contract to like 10 million, 11 million, maybe 12 million within the next 2 years and actually win a Stanley Cup just for a team friendly deal?
I maybe, but I'm not gonna bank on it too much, because again, I think players are still gonna go want to get their money. They're gonna want to get paid. So maybe, I mean, not everybody's a John Tavares, not everybody is a Matthew, not everybody is a Tavares or whatever. Like some guys want to get their money, some guys want to get paid. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you see that be a thing too often, because again, guys want to make their money. Guys have worked hard to get what they deserve. But the big thing is again is that how do you make the money work and win a Stanley Cup? Because again, this is a hard cap league. There's no leeways that allow you to go over that cap. So it's gonna be tough.
Mm-hmm.
I do think someone will do it. I do think it has to happen eventually, but I'm not sure who. I gotta see who takes the big money first before I'm convinced a team can win. But I think it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
You just need a crafty GM. You just need a GM who is savvy enough to make that work with the money.
I think we're also potentially going to see with the salary cap increasing, we might see our first triple digit contract within the NHL in a very long time. So
We've got you mean in total triple digits? We got that.
we have that already? Sorry.
Leon.
Oh yes, Leon. My mistake.
No, we got me 100 billion in terms of the total deal. We got that.
Yeah. Okay. So my mistake, folks. Sorry about that. But could we see higher numbers than say 115, 120?
Entirely eventually it's going to happen though, but
Yeah.
but again, the NHL is not anywhere near, they're not anywhere near the NBA or the NFL or even MLB. Like that kind of money, it's going to take a long time
Uh-huh.
before we see the NHL making that kind of money. Like I mean the cap's going to go up, but the
Mhm.
NHL has a lot of catching up to do for where they're making money that threatens the other three leagues in terms of salary.
Yeah,
We're a long ways away from that.
of course. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to cut this short for this lovely evening here. Folks, like we have stated, we are going to keep an eye on NHL free agency as of course, this will be posted, say, I guess, post free agency. This is a
Yep.
post free agency. So we're also going to be doing like a post game analysis on Spaces on Tuesday. On Tuesday, when free agency is done, the first day of free agency is done. We might be doing a post game episode for that. So keep your ears and eyes open for that. Of course, I want to say thank you, Avery, for coming through, and of course to you, the listener, for letting us grace the space in between your head top. We will be back again later this week to go over the first week of NHL free agency, and hopefully the moratorium is lifted and players can finally sign in the NHL. So until next time, make sure you drink your water, mind your business, and deuces. We'll be back soon.